Morning, everybody. How we doing? We entering the last hours of 2020. I don't know about you all, but good riddance to 2020. Some good things have come out of 2020. Namely, this channel for me has really blossomed and become something that I feel very passionate about and connected to, and it's definitely kept me sane through this year, having this to occupy my time, my mind, and my space. And the constant reflection on jazz and its condition and its human experience has kept me humble and has kept me grounded in this tough year, knowing that nothing I've faced, compared to what a lot of these men went through every day, nothing I've dealt with this year is even close. Just like the people that went through World War II, those people saw some real ugly. If you were in the European theater, you saw some things, that this is nothing. This is a pimple. And so it's always important to have perspective to help keep yourself grounded, and so you don't drift too far out at sea. We need to stay anchored in those safe harbors, and jazz for me is absolutely that. And I'm going to dive back into that in a minute, but I want to wish everybody a happy and safe New Year's Eve. Be safe, be smart, watch it on TV. 21, it's got to be better, you hope, but there's also some lessons in history that say when empires start squeezing their own people, it's never a good sign. That serpent does always consume its own tail. Once it's fed on all the enemies of the people and made them feel safe, its appetite's grown so voracious that that serpent will just continue to feed on whatever it can find. And if it means it has to destroy itself in order to feed, it will do so. And there's money changing hands underneath the table here in 2020 that our kids will look at us and be like, were you all stupid? Were you all dumb? By the way, I'm playing some great Fletcher Henderson here. Those of you who aren't familiar with Fletcher Henderson, he was the black guy behind a lot of white guys. Benny Goodman used Fletcher Henderson a lot for arrangements. One of the great arrangers in the jazz canon in the 20s and 30s. He was behind a lot of the most what's the word I'm looking for? The most innovative swing. Oh boy, he could make bands sound amazing, and most of the white bands knew too that they were going to sound black if they got Fletcher Henderson to write their charts for them. And he had great orchestras of his own, which he's probably a little less renowned for, honestly. He seems like he's almost known more for arranging for other people. But if he arranged your charts, they were going to be something explosive, dynamic. On some levels, he's probably on par with Ellington as an arranger. Just uses all the tools in the musician's toolkit. Dynamics and crescendos and counter harmonies and melodies and rhythms. Just a really brilliant, sort of accent, and drop all kinds of interesting little vibratos and staccatos, and it's really a fun guy to dive through. And some of the greats in history had a lot of their start playing in his orchestras, namely Coleman Hawkins comes to mind right off the bat when you think about great guys who played with him. But I was looking at some of the people involved in these sessions, and these sessions do cover over a 3-year period. But you got Benny Moten, you got where am I at here? Russell Procope, Benny Morton. Just had to find it there. Russell Smith, Rex Stewart, Coleman Hawkins, John Kirby, Walter Johnson, Buster Bailey, Ben Webster. It's just a who's who of the swing era giants, especially on the black side of the thing. And Fletcher Henderson is probably the third most famous black big band behind Basie and Ellington. But Fletcher's an important cat that we should all pay a little more attention to. And a lot of the guys in his bands, as we moved into the 40s and bebop happens, these guys were the great small ensembles that were doing these small group sessions that really became the body and soul of what we think of as jazz. It's a lot of the guys from the swing era that first made these small group combos in the 40s and 50s that is what we all think of as jazz in a lot of ways. It's not bebop, it's not swing, it's not the avant-garde, it's not free. It's this post-swing small group done by the Ben Websters and Coleman Hawkins and Sweets Edisons and all those Lester Youngs. Those guys kind of develop that small group sound. And it's just a great lineage. And it's a guy people need to know more about and pay a bit more attention to. So again, happy New Year's Eve to everybody. In the next 36 hours, the whole world's going to roll over. And let's hope for better things. Let's hope for some stability and some of this mess just cleans itself up, both the health issues, the political issues. I think the health thing will come to some sense this year. As far as the politics and economics, they're always going to remain somewhat messed up. That's just the elements of how things are going to be, especially with our wealth distribution as it is. I want to next thank my friend Armin. I was browsing online the other day. I realized that I needed to spend a little bit of my savings on some records, so I had some write-off revenue so I could help myself in tax time. And so I was doing some looking online, and I found a couple things I wanted to buy. And I've had all of the stuff from Birdland, the later 12-inch covers, some of the 10-inch stuff. I found a nice copy of volume 1 of this, which is just the alternate 12-inch cover. I found volume 1 of this last year, and again, I didn't need it because I had volume 1 and 2 with the later 12-inch covers, but I really it was a beautiful copy. I couldn't pass it up. And that, of course, makes me want to have volume 2 with that cover as well. So I looked to see what was out there. This guy had a copy for a decent price. I messaged him, made an offer to him. He recognized me from this channel and offered it to me as a thank you for my services on this channel. And I can't thank you enough, Armin. It's a fantastic gift. You know, that's going to stay in there as a reminder of how I got this and where it came from. I sometimes will do that, little things that are tied to a record. Let's leave that bit of chronology in there, you know, so I can always see that and remember that. But for a beat up old record, it plays pretty darn well. There's a couple hicks here and there, but again, I have the music. I just wanted the cover, and I just love the feel and smell of the oldest original pressings when you have the chance to get them for the right price. I'm never going to spend $500 on a record. That's not me. It's not my economics. I don't think they should be that much, period. They're certainly being inflated by some ridiculous conditions right now. Great gift. You know, it's going with all my other Blakeys, 60 strong. Again, it's music I'm already really well familiar with and have probably in 2 other formats already, but it just sounds so strong and powerful coming out of my speakers. And Blakey is just a wall of molten lava splashing through your senses. There's really nothing else like our Blakey out there. You know, him and that Jazz Messenger Kingdom, it's just all powerful. Armin has a store on Discogs called Soul Action. It's a store on Discogs. I'll put a link in the description after this episode when I'm done. Check out the store. You know, tell him the Jazz Shepherd sent you. I'm sure he'll work with you if you find something you want to purchase from him. Great guy. Again, thank you, Armin. Peace be to all my friends around the world. I mean that sincerely. Once we find empathy for all of our human brethren, our unity from that perspective will change the world. And jazz was a part of that process for a long time, and we need to get back to that. And if there's one way jazz can still have power and be alive and change the world, it's through this community that's bringing us together from just different continents, different walks of life, but we share our love for the electricity that this music creates. Number 3, I want to talk about my friend Neil at Fat Dog Records. He's in the Newcastle, Sunderland area on the channel over in the UK there. He's been watching and talking, commenting for a number of months, probably half a year. He introduced one of his friends to my channel, and his name was Damon H. I'll leave it at that. And we messaged yesterday and chatted for a while. And I was excited to hear him reiterate to me some of the things I try to get across. The electricity of feeling and not hearing. The moment when I was listening to Locomotion, John Coltrane, and my friend Neil told his friend about this Damon, and Damon reiterated it to me, third person, and got it completely right and totally got it. And that meant a lot to me. Like, people aren't just hearing this and dismissing it. For some people, this stuff's really connecting. And he was talking about how when Locomotion kicks in, and his friend Neil was telling about it, how I spoke about it, and how he heard it. And then when Damon heard it, he was like, it's like an aha. And it does force you to go back and re-listen to everything you've ever listened to jazz-wise. Because you're no longer listening for virtuosity. You're no longer listening for notes and vertical and horizontal harmony and melody. You're suddenly now just going, what's this guy trying to tell me? Because that Morgan was so clear, he was frustrated. He was filled with some vitriol, and he spews it out of his trumpet. And it sounds so much more angry than an Armstrong. Armstrong could be just as bright, just as dynamic, but it didn't sound ever as angry as Morgan sounds in that moment. And when you realize that epiphany, that aha, it's like, oh, he's not trying to show me his ability. That's got nothing to do with it. He's trying to express and make me feel how he feels and get that off of his chest. And so suddenly you realize that virtuosity and scales and the math of the numbers, none of that's the point. None of us should even be listening to that. A painter doesn't want to look at you, have you look at his art and try to understand how you did the art. He wants to know, what does it make you feel? And what's so powerful about jazz, and what is so unique about jazz, is its honesty. Because it's not a verbal expression, it's just your soul speak. It can't help but be this honest reflection of my condition. And so I've said before, you look at a few pictures of a guy's face, and is he smiling? Is he intense? Is he dreamy? Is he disconnected? Those photos will start to tell you what's his personal headspace and how he's dealing with his environment and his experience within that environment. And all that will start to tell you what a jazz musician is trying to get across. And it's so powerful. And it's from that place when I went back and re-listened to all my jazz records. Everything I've heard from a different place now. It's that when you realize that Miles, being the person who he is, kind of cranky and uptight and on edge, there's no way that he can't be reflecting that in his playing. It changed how I heard Miles, probably as significantly as anything. He no longer just was this romantic, soft serenader. He was very subliminally negative and subvertive and unsatisfied, but it's still honest. But it's that honesty that tells me, on some level, Miles is like, fuck you, white boy. It feels like that's what he's saying to me a lot of the time. He didn't really respect his audience or face them often, so how can this person who's this, and it's the same with a rock and roll player. A rock and roll guitarist is going to inflect some of who he is into his playing. And jazz is completely wordless. It's just this expression of how I feel. And when I factored into this equation how that honest place of me coping with my experience in this life, this walk, my humanity. How for many of these black men, what music is to me is often a place of shelter, a place of safety. How much more must it be for them to have this communion and fellowship with people of common blood, to express our exhaustion, tension, and sorrow in this honest vernacular. And one of the things that makes jazz so unique is that almost all of the protests written by the world's oppressed people aren't there to document throughout time how they felt about it. You know, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. That is an example of an oppressed people and their art standing through time. The book of Revelations, for most people's minds, is John talking about the Roman Empire, not the future. But he's doing it in code so he can get away with doing it. And so here these clever black jazzmen are speaking these incredible sentiments about their experience in white America, that once you have the code to feel what they're saying, forever through time, people will be able to tune in and connect with not just their anger and dissatisfaction, but also their joy, sexuality, and freedom. How they made it through. It's an incredible testament. It's an incredible, magical experience. And something I've touched on before is the African mask theory, and how that shaman in Africa, he never set out to carve that mask saying, I want everyone to see how great a carver I am. It might have taken him decades to refine his craft, and each mask probably took years to make and finish and to add other elements to it. And it was never about, I need to become the best carver. It was always about becoming the best protector of my people to ward off the evil spirits. That was his only motivation. But by doing so consistently, he became a great carver. And that's kind of the magic of jazz. These guys weren't playing to become the best players ever. They were playing because it was a place of safety from the evil spirits. And when I played, I feel a little bit saner. I feel a little bit calmer. And they wore that music like a mask. It had magic, potency, power. And it was a place of great safety, a harbor. And white colonials came over, and most of them settled in the industrial port cities. Some wandered off into the villages, and a few even learned to live among the villagers. And it's white players like Bill Evans and Pepper Adams, who lived and worked with the blacks all the time in jazz, who were able to somehow wear that mask and get it and share that empathy. But the white settlers in the port, who often set out to make masks themselves to sell to travelers, to ship back home and sell, those guys might have been able to make a great mask. They probably could carve 10 in the time it took a shaman to make one. They probably had better tools, much better profit margins, but it was never about profit to the shaman. That was never a part of the equation. And so that colonial mask maker might have made a fine mask that looks great, and that's what most of us are going to hang on our wall because we can't afford that priceless shaman mask that actually belongs in a museum or in the village itself, still protecting. And so a lot of the white cats who came along, very few of them actually got the mask. They weren't looking for shelter in the same way. And so they're often carving the mask going, hey, look how great my mask is. I'm a great carver. And it just changes the dynamics. And so what I'm trying to get across here is that this is why I do this channel. This is why I was told to do this channel. It's never been about I need to make money or I've made $300 in 2020 off YouTube. That's it. It's most of my money gets taken by the censors because I play music, so they make me to share my revenue or take all the revenue. And these episodes, my subscriptions, I'm not making money doing this, you know, and that's okay. I do make some money at Patreon. I want to thank all you people again for 2020, and hopefully stay with me in 2021. People have been buying some of the merchandise. I'd love to see us sell some more of that merchandise. I think it's sharp looking stuff. My friend from Belgium, Sven, did a great job designing a lot of these logos. A lot of them have fantastic, kind of Reed Miles-esque interpretations on them. It's good stuff. But that mask was so important to me because it told me the integrity and the sincerity and desperation of these black men have documented for the future the voice of the oppressed. And it just has a priceless nature. It makes this stuff so important. It means when you listen to some of these guys emote, it should make your hair stand on end. I'm going to get up on the mountaintop and scream, stop listening to jazz. Just feel what this man is trying to tell you. And as you get to know these players through listening, through research, through photographs, through knowing your history, knowing the difference between the mindset of a 1920s black male and a 1960s black male. These are all important things. You have to have some concept of history and what each decade was like and how their place in America shifted and changed. But all that history, all that economics, all that civil unrest, civil rights movement, social status, drug addiction, it's all part of what a jazz player is telling you, and you need to have the context of space and time to hear what a guy is saying. And that's what makes what Sweets Edison is saying very different from what Lee Morgan's saying 1940 versus 1960. The times and the places and the men themselves are what changes all of that. And it was just so electrifying to me. Bob Marley's always been my favorite musician because what he says is so timeless. In the abundance of water, the fool is thirsty. Amen to that. You know, I mean, Bob Marley says some profound things. And here's jazz saying this coded message of, I'm venting my frustration from the tyranny, and in doing so, I'm finding a freedom to celebrate. And I'm doing it in a groove that's going to allow me to be sexual. It's just such an empowering thing. It's like, it's hard to put into words just how much overcoming and conquering my experience, it's just so, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And so I just want people to hear the power of the shaman, the power of the protection and the mask that the music and the art form created. And a lot of these men, it feels like hardly ever took the mask off. They played nonstop. Coltrane was always within that mask. And it's such a powerful experience if you have the perception and want to take the time to stop just talking about pressings and notes and complicated arrangements, because none of that's really the essence of jazz. The essence of jazz is emoting via improvisation. And that's the two important words. I'm going to emote my condition via immediate inspiration. Most of us aren't that lucky to have that connection between heart, soul, and mind. But jazz demands your mind is involved, your body's involved, your heart is involved, and your soul is absolutely involved. And when you take that soul out of it, it does just become paint by numbers. It becomes empty virtuosity. And it loses my interest. But when I hear the guys from this era, it charges my battery. So, because my friend Damon so kind of reiterated to me my own words, my own epiphany of what that moment is like when you hear something grab you by the throat grabber. And for me, it was that Lee Morgan on Coltrane. That was the first time it grabbed me by the throat and said, hey, shut up. Stop thinking and just feel what I have to fucking say. Feel who the fuck I am and where I'm coming from right now. Stop talking composition. Stop talking depressing. Just shut up, stop thinking, and just think about my place in America in 1962 and why I sound like I sound. I mean, it's a powerful thing. And that's what throat grabbers often are. And a lot of times it's just virtuosity expressing such a moment of relief or anxiety or pain, suffering, joy, exuberance. It's this flare of energy that the listener, when they're in that context, can be like, oh shit, stop choking my neck. But Damon got it. And he sent me a little video of him listening and making the face, doing the whole thing. And they told me that they both got it. And that what I'm saying is getting across to at least some of the people who watch. And that made me thrilled. It made me feel valued and validated, because that's all I'm trying to get across, is the potency and magic of this coded language. And what it also inspired me to do here is, as clearly as I could see Damon got it, I would like to open up the opportunity for people to send me short 2-minute videos of your favorite throat grabber. Just send me one at a time. I'm going to try doing this once a month, I think, if it works. I might get one video or 2 videos and it'll be done. I'll never do it again. I might get inundated with, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen here. But if you have a throat grabber that comes to mind, set up yourself a little cell phone, play the record, make sure the volume ain't too loud so we don't get the episode blocked. The volume has to be pretty low, but audible so we can kind of hear it, and make sure you speak over it. Because as long as you speak over it, at worst they'll usually just take away my revenue and not block the episode. It's when you leave music unspoken over for 20-15 seconds that they really shut that down. So if you can do that, if you can 60 to 120 seconds, show us the record, play it, speak over it, and tell me the moment that you grabbed your throat and it made you go, oh shit. And then I'm going to try to compile that into a little guest throat grabber episode, and it could be fun. And if I get a lot, I'll have to select the 6, 8, 10, 12 that I'm going to use. But then if I get a lot, I'll have more for the next time I do it. So if anybody who's interested, just put a note in the comments. And I'm actually, I think, just doing it on your phone and sending me the video in... Oh, shoot. I'm drawing a blank here. But there's probably lots of ways you can actually send me the video. I'll get it onto my system and upload it and edit it. I think it could be fun to see the Jazz Shepherd channel's congregation, or flock as it were, some of you guys throat grabbers. And if it's fun, hopefully it's something we can do on a regular basis. So send me your throat grabbers if you got one. But just start with one. Keep it under 2 minutes. And I'm hoping to see some interesting and insightful stuff. And maybe I'm hoping that most of what people share, I can't agree more. Be like, yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. If there's one that I'm like, I don't feel that at all, I'll say so, or I just won't use it. But I think a lot of people actually do get it. And people have commented and said some of their throat grabbers in comments. So I know people do get it. So let me see what people got. So again, thanks Darman for my Jazz Messenger record. Very cool. I will appreciate it. It found a good home. It's happy to be sleeping with its sister on the shelf in the wonderful Art Blakey section. And one of the things I love about Sam Jackson, about Art Blakey, I posted this record on my Facebook group yesterday and talked about it a little bit there. And I realized that Blakey talks to us a bit like Sam Jackson speaks to us. A lot of motherfuckers, a lot of, cold stares and dynamic dialogue. The messengers themselves are kind of like a bunch of Sam Jackson dialogue. It's just charged. They got some F words in there. They don't give no shits. They're going to say what's on their damn mind. And that's part of what makes the Jazz Messengers the most sacred ground in a lot of ways in the jazz kingdom for me. But so thanks, Armin. It was great talking with you, Damon. Neil at Fat Dog, thanks for sharing it with your friend. And I've always enjoyed chatting with you as well. Happy New Year to everybody. Stay safe. Keep your head up. Here's the good things in the new year. Again, this channel is here not for my own personal gain, but for me trying to get people to hear jazz the way I heard it post that epiphany, because it became so much more exciting, so much more enlightened, so much more alive. It rips through me at times, the things that this coded resistance said and spoke about. And very few tormented people throughout history get to document how they feel about it and have it survive and even become an art form in the kingdom of those who oppress them. It's such an honest, amazing twist of irony that my protestation against you choking my neck, you now play in your museums and in libraries and think is this kind of noble esteem, and it is a noble thing, but it's not because of the virtuosity. It's because of that powerful message of I will be free. Doesn't matter what you say, doesn't matter what you do, I will be free. That's the human condition. And it's not about pigment. It just happens to live in black and white in America. But whites were oppressed throughout history, the Jews, Latinos, Asians, you name it. It doesn't limit itself to race by any means. It's just here in America in a very black and white setting. So, y'all be safe. Don't get drunk. Find some Mary Jane. She's much better to you. Spirits up. Let's all say a prayer for 2021 and hope that the promised land arrives. We can cross that River Jordan and get by some of this mucky muck. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.